rice is back in the stores, I would probably grab another bag while you can, and just be prepared, because I think food prices are going to go higher. But to protect yourself is that those are the stocks I was talking about where you probably want to buy, and I think what's going to happen is all else falls. What people don't realize is when all your money is going to go towards staples. See, if you notice the way the elites have worked it, right? They made healthcare too expensive. You have to buy it by law. They made rents too expensive because they let BlackRock basically corner the market, right? They stagnated wages, and then now they're going to make food prices too expensive.
We no longer have a stock market anymore. Instead, now we have a market of stocks. The new highs in the stock market are only following central bank money printing, and you simply can't blindly buy anymore. Treasury balance sheet hitting all-time highs. Now, there's always a bull market somewhere, and Trade Genius is here to help you find it. Their proprietary algorithms are finely tuned to find the most profitable winners and losers to help you maximize your profit. Learn to trade stocks, cryptocurrency, binary options, perfect to take control of your financial future, and discover the lucrative world of trading and receive personal coaching from trade geniuses Bob Kudla and Philip Cleaver. Right now until Father's Day, you can save over 50% off their bundled monthly specials, or use the promo code Father's Day for a whopping 40% off all non-bundled items. TradeGeniusAcademy.com. The link's in the description box below, and on with the interview. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, again, Bob Kudla, TradeLikeAGenius.com. There's so many ways that we can dissect this. I've had a lot of people asking me, what do you feel about the Fed coin and the ongoing money printing? And a way to protect yourself, we're going to have to think of different assets or different asset classes to be able to weather through if indeed it does go into a hyperinflationary event, some sort of reset or whatever it might be with the monetary system we understand currently. Bob, thanks for joining me. What do you feel in today's landscape with the amount of money printing? They pulled back, and now they said they're going to issue another $700 billion next week, and the Treasury balance just keeps growing and growing, and the national debt is nonstop. It's $27 trillion now. So where do we end from here?
Yeah, I'll probably be a bit of a contrarian here, is that the dollar, ironically, is going to go higher. And the reason being is that all the other currencies in the world are in worse shape than ours. You got to remember, the dollar is not an absolute thing. It's a currency is only judged against other currencies. So when people see the dollar index, that index is against the euro, the yen, the pound, the yuan, etc., the Swiss franc, et cetera, et cetera. Having said that, there's the reason for that also is that a lot of debt around the world is denominated in dollars, and that debt is starting to get defaulted on in the U.S. and around the world. And so what they have to do is they have to print more and more currency out there just to keep the dollar from instead of exploding, have the dollar basically implode, which means that it'll go up in value, which means deflation will take hold. They're desperate to avoid deflation right now. It seems weird, but that's what's happening. But where the pain is coming in is that, and we were just talking about this today in our trading room, is that they're ring fencing the assets of the rich, okay? And the liabilities and the expenses of the poor are rising, i.e. the things that they need to have to live. Those things are going up in price to protect the assets that the rich have. And then with the dollar going up, it's really not relevant to us. It's really relevant if you're listening outside the United States. Your currencies are toast. So I would quickly get into gold, silver, food stocks, anything that's going to be an inflation hedge outside the dollar. And the dollar will have its day, but it'll have its day probably in a couple of years from now. And what we're seeing now is when gold and the dollar start moving up together, that's the next ratchet down in terms of, Armageddon for the financial market. Then eventually it'll just be gold, and then the dollar will be thrown away. So that's what we're seeing here. And so we never changed our view on this, is that, right now we're getting this big pump in asset prices because of the money the Fed's putting out there. They have nowhere else to put it. They don't want to invest in anything growth related because they don't trust the economy. So they just shove it into the stock market, knowing the Fed's going to keep bringing more money in behind it. But it's really dead money, if you will. And then the poor, they're not in the stock market. So they're dealing with, the price of beef going from $8.99 a pound for a ribeye to $16.95 for a ribeye. For ground beef going from $2.99 to $5.99. That's the stuff that they're seeing, and at the same time, add these riots in, and people even losing access to food. So it's really going to be a bifurcated market. There's an old biblical phrase that said that don't harm the olive oil and the wine, but you're going to have to work a whole day for basically a portion of barley. And if anybody knows anything about the grain hierarchy of desire, barley is the cheapest stuff you can make and grow. Basically saying people are going to be living subsistence while the rich are going to be living in pleasure. And that's kind of what's going to happen with the economies around the world.
Sounds like the Bitcoin citadel's manifesting. Now,
Yep.
a quick note in Asia here. Hong Kong is having a run on U.S. dollars because of the new national security law that's coming in on top of the regular constitution in Hong Kong. Everybody's trying to flee out of Hong Kong dollars, knowing that there might be a decoupling of the peg. We're starting to see a run on dollars where they've actually run out of U.S. dollars in Hong Kong from people wanting to trade so much. And what they've done then, because there are not enough dollars, is transitioned into the euro and the British pound as second and third choices. When it comes down to the meats that you just mentioned, I'm seeing prices now, people are reporting back to me, of ground beef being $8.99 a pound. Okay, having a nice prime cut of meat that's $30, $15, whatever it is, that's, you either have money or you don't to afford that. But when it gets down to the very base level of having a meat source of, even if that's what if it goes up to $16 for a pound of ground beef? What's the second and third choice for most people that are going to be priced out of the market food-wise? Because if you're looking at the world wholesale rice prices, they've eclipsed 2008 run-up levels. It's the highest since the 1960s now for rice on a inflationary basis. So wherever you're looking across, meats, vegetables, rice, staples, wheat, barley, and everything is hitting highs right now. We spend about 5 or 8% of our total expenditure on food. Other countries spending 30, 40%. I mean, how much can they go, and what do you think that second or third choice will be? And then again, what the most important thing is, how do you think people can protect against this type of inflation, whether it be for food or for rent or housing or any kind of large ticket items? Anything that we're going to buy is going to go up. So, quite a few questions in there, but second, third choice, and then how to protect yourself inflation wise.
Yeah. So here's the hierarchy of protein, right? You go egg, chicken, pork, beef/lamb. So you're just going to see that roll down. And the reason why that is you can bring a chicken to market in 60 days. You can bring a pig to market in 4 months, but it takes 2 years to bring a cow to market. And they messed the whole fake coronavirus thing, kind of messed that all up, because now the WHO's out there saying, well, unless you're sick, you can't get people sick, and everybody intuitively knew this, but they threw all the supply chains out of whack. And I think all this is cover for them. So fearful about the solar minimum coming, they're trying to distract people with other crises because they keep trying to yammer on about global warming. I mean, look, I-90 in Montana, you can't get over the pass; it's snowing. I-80 on the pass into California Sierras, they got a dusting on the mountaintops. This is June, and they're still getting snow. And I talked before in Southern California. We got rain on Saturday. It was nice. The weather was beautiful. And I think the monsoons are going to be coming up this way. And then the thing about how to protect yourself is, I shot you a chart. If you notice, mosaic has been moving up nicely. When you get crops in the ground late, you got to goose it with the potash and other things to get the crops to pop. And so that's why you're starting to see the movement. And start looking at all the ag chem companies. We're going to get big moves on that. I shot you a thing on corn. We're going into now where we should get a good move on corn. I think it's already up 4% from last week. So those are tradable events. There's soybean and wheat. You can also trade on the ETFs in the U.S. And we use our ribbon system to identify these opportunities. And there'll be a few food companies that you can buy because they're going to be able to basically play the inflation game of buying, holding, then selling higher, just like the gas stations do when oil prices are moving up. They or moving down, I should say. They play that game where they can manipulate their inventories to maximize their profit. And if you saw Pilgrim's Pride, and I think Tyson executives may go to jail for price fixing. So we have a different problem here in the U.S. We have very few producers now, and they're all holding price. So they're trying to keep people from being able to afford anything. And I think after all this PPP money runs out here in June or July, I think it's going to be a fall of biblical proportions.
I want to add into that. Speaking of the ag, I got a notice from True Leaf Market, their seed supplier, Heirloom and Organic Seeds, that they're now starting to experience shortages for several varieties of the seed. Either it doesn't grow because some of it came out of Idaho and the conditions were wrong completely and it wiped out bean crops, different kind of bean seeds. And what they're finding also, the black olive sunflower seed that's produced mainly in northern Italy. They have sharecroppers that are out there that grow specifically contract batches that are sent directly over to, and they're having a real problem with importing and exporting seed varieties. So they're starting to show a lot of the different families of seeds are having shortages within a certain species. Now, they're talking about this extending in through 2021 and 22. So whether it be a seed you put in your own garden or whether it be agribusiness that they're putting out in the large fields, seeds are seeds, plants are plants. And if they're struggling to grow in some areas, they're struggling to grow in a lot of areas, Australia being one. But, that seed shortage thing caught me off guard, that you and I as farmers, a backyard farmer, gardener, are now going to have a more difficult time accessing seeds, starting with beets. And I thought that would be the last thing, root crop type of vegetables. I can understand the sunflower seeds and the different potato varieties. I mean, these are things that are growing underground, and this is what was supposed to be saving us from these grand solar minimum above ground crush of the wheat or whatever would be bowled over by winds or hail. But then these very below ground things, it's just a mixed up kind of agrarian world here where we're already losing production, and you can see it everywhere. If you're really looking for it, you can see the losses, and you can see why they would want to distract an entire planet, because all that anger would be directed toward the elite for not warning everybody for these last 20 years that we could have gotten ready. I think that's more the game of all this distraction. It has to get more grandiose, but
I went to the garden center this weekend, and I was looking for certain seeds, and I was talking to the manager, and this is a private, this is not a chain, and he said the people are just coming in. They have actually had a limit how many seeds people can buy because people were hoarding seeds. And if you notice, I should have took a picture for this weekend, but the whole seed rack was empty. And I said, when are you getting any in? He said, we probably won't be getting any in for months because we have to wait for the next crop to become available. But yeah, they wiped out a lot of the seeds, and I just doubled my garden this weekend, so I'm getting ready for a really interesting 12 months here. I would encourage people. Rice is back in the stores. I would probably grab another bag while you can, and just be prepared, because I think food prices are going to go higher. But to protect yourself is that those are the stocks I was talking about where you probably want to buy, and I think what's going to happen is all else falls. What people don't realize is when all your money is going to go towards staples. See, if you notice the way the elites have worked it, right? They made healthcare too expensive. You have to buy it by law. They made rents too expensive because they let BlackRock basically corner the market, right? They stagnated wages, and then now they're going to make food prices too expensive. Well, the American economy survives and thrives on what we call the services that are non-essential, if you will. Where people just go, hey, a dog walker, or go get a massage, or go get your nails done, or go get a high-end haircut, or go on vacation. those are the value adds of living in America, where you don't, you don't run out of money on the 23rd of every month. And the elites they're just bound and determined to just have you locked into the four things you're spending your money on, and the rest of those businesses go away. And those are all middle class, service businesses that are going to get wiped out. And so, we're going to get a double whammy. A lot of people are going to be unemployed at the same time. There's not going to be enough. I don't want to say there's not going to be enough food. There's not going to be enough food that's going to be cheap enough until we can reconfigure, how we do things. I mean, my 1 mile walk up to the coffee shop, the area that I walk through can probably grow enough food just on the lawns of the housing development, probably to feed all 1,100 people in our development. So unless they start victory guarding all the common areas, there'll be plenty of food. It's just that it's going to take political will and a change of attitude.
It's always the way it is, back against the wall, then things change. Nobody wants to change when it's comfortable. And what will it change? Because we see the Pick for Britain campaign going on right now. And that's because of laborers that are coming over from Europe. Now, they say it's with the Brexit separation, but with the 14-day quarantines over in the UK and really difficult to travel there, it's hard to get 80,000 migrant laborers to come over and do all the, field work out there. So they're asking, individual citizens across the UK in your local municipality, can you come and help us pick this year's harvest? And it's hashtag Pick for Britain. So when it comes down to a country's already going to that level where it's saying, hey, citizens, we need your help to even get the food crop in for this year. What can those people learn and then turn that into self-sufficiency inside their neighborhoods? But at the same token, right in the very couple next paragraphs of that same article, they were called, nationalist for trying to be more self-sufficient. And why don't I want to buy other people's products and use other services? Oh, you're so nationalist and so protectionist because you don't want to buy our stuff. We're like, wait, we can grow it right here. We got great soil and we already grow this thing. So why would we want to buy it from you? So, what can people learn in this and try to take that sovereignty away? Because, a lot of these problems that are happening with the protests right now, I think it's misfocused a little bit. Notice how last year in November and December, there were 22 protests across the world wanting change in the banking system and the government structure itself in nations. How quickly that's flipped over to new narratives. Fine, there's a lot of oppression in whatever government you're going across the planet. But to be able to get off this system, that's how you defeat the system. Moving to cryptocurrency, getting off, growing your own food so you're more self-sufficient, trading and bartering amongst your neighbors so you don't have to pay tax and you aren't using currency. Trying to get away from the entire system that's pulling everything down. And, they keep going back. It's the building over here. It says, no, it's the system itself. It's like kind of a non-tangible thing you can't grab out of. Well, what can you do in your own lifestyle with your neighbors, like you said, your families, communities around you to make those steps into more self-sufficiency as we move down this grand solar minimum, step by step down in economy and, population migration and food production. And this happens every grand solar minimum, that fingerprint. You see those three things every time. We're going to have to step up and take our own sovereignty back to be able to make these changes, I think, as we move through. And I'm really very much a fan of Moneymaker to be able to trade off some of the easy crypto moves that I see instead of, trying to rip through a day trade every 5 minutes to just pick out the cherries that are at the tops and bottoms there. So that's my personal thing.
Look, the system works great. I mean, look at this weekend. I think it was a 5% move in Bitcoin. So, these things are sitting out there. Hopefully get back to the weekend. Let the Asian trade on Friday, pay you Saturday, when they go to bed, you pocket the dough, So I think you're going to see a lot more of that. When you talk about Hong Kong, people are going to be trying to bail out of that system fast. And, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of immigration into United States, Canada, Britain, Australia, New Zealand from those folks in Hong Kong that are going to try to get out of ahead of the beast there. But look, China's in trouble. We talked about this before. It's really, really fascinating to me is, look, there's 5 countries in the world that can really, what I would call, they're the feed the world people if they have enough. You're talking about United States, you're talking about Canada, Australia, you're talking Argentina, you're talking Brazil, and that's pretty much it. And then you look at that, Australia is going through incredible cold weather, and Canada is going to go offline on the solar minimum too. So you're down to United States, Brazil, and Argentina, and I think there's not enough infrastructure in the North African countries yet to be able to feed Europe. And Europe kind of hit or miss. Some years they can feed themselves, some years they can't. I failed to mention Russia, but if you notice, Russia and Ukraine have already decided that push comes to shove, they're not going to export
Nothing.
because they know that's how they lose power. And the United States, we're getting this huge flooding in our Central River Valley right now, and China just basically is displacing 1 million people in one of their river valleys right now with flooding, as one of their fertile valleys too. So we're going to start seeing. That's the thing about the solar minimum. These river valleys are going to get inundated, and they're not going to be able to put the crops in the ground. So I'm expecting to see corn. Not wheat so much, but I think I'm waiting to see corn really go and higher in prices.